Welcome and warning. This podcast has been designed for those who love to think freely and alternatively. Some material will trigger some of you and it'll offend others. While it is our attempt to always be respectful, these are our stories from our experiences. And some of the things that we are going to bring up are just theories that we're sharing of other people's. It's designed to just look at things from different perspective to you. For everybody else, this podcast is for entertainment purposes only. If you're ready, buckle up and enjoy the ride. Let's go question everything. Welcome, welcome. Welcome to my very first episode of the Consumer podcast. I promise I'm going to get less annoying saying that. At least I hope. Um, I just wanted to get the point across that I'm doing a play on words, but this is going to be my very first episode, and this is where things are going to get a little less formal for me. I know that my teasers were a little more formal, a little more curated. I'm actually trying to get away from that just because um, I'm not about that life anymore, but I still, for entertainment purposes, wanted to make sure you guys get me trying a little bit. So, I am Anna, aka I call myself Mystic Pixie. Why? Uh, I did one of those little life path things where you add up all the numbers in your birthday, and it said I was a seeker or a mystic. So I went with mystic because I like that name. And Pixie is my fucking haircut. So just nothing too stellar about this background. But basically, what do I want to do? Why am I doing this podcast? Is what I'd like to talk about in this episode. And then after that, we're going to start getting into the meat a little bit more. I did actually already record my first collaborative episode. I did do this one once and I messed it up horribly in editing. So I'm now re recording so I can speak. I can speak to my other episode just in real time because it's already recorded. We have to edit it. But I get together with a friend of mine and we start telling some real time stories. And listen, both of us have ADHD, probably undiagnosed, and we just basically flip all over the place. But the stories are fun. And in a nutshell, let me just give you a little background about me. I am Anna. I am 42 years old. Um, I'm sorry, no, I'm not. I'm 43 now. So that's where my brain is. I was born in 1982. So I decided to do this podcast. I basically because I'm somebody who I did everything that I was told to do over the years. I did everything I was told to do. At one point growing up, one of my best friend's godmothers had told us, girls, you girls need to listen. She said, you don't go out and have babies and um, you get married in your 20s. You guys need to enjoy your 20s. You get your jobs, you work through all that. Then you get married and have your babies in your 30s. And I did listen to that. I listened to that advice and my friend didn't. And there's no judgment or anything. I'm kind of coming to this full circle now where here I am, this adult woman, and I did what I was supposed to do. I was listening and I was fucking miserable. Absolutely miserable. And I had gotten to a point where I had worked for local, state, and federal government. I did 15 years between the three of them. And again, got to the point where it was just everything felt like fake work to me. And this was well before anything political. Everything just felt fake. And then throughout my career, looking back at different lawsuits and things that had happened just in these businesses and, even in public sector, it felt faker and faker. And I realized I wasn't serving myself in going to these 8-hour jobs. Everybody there is, oh, we need our jobs. We have to be here. And everybody's so miserable and everybody's there for their own reasons. And it's really difficult because you can never really align with any of it. So I had some really ugly breakdowns through that time. And it was just me trying to figure out. And it wasn't just the work itself. It was just, I don't like where everything went, if that makes sense. So, anyways, so I decided to do this. I feel like this is kind of my calling because I am so fucking obsessed with conspiracy theories. I am obsessed with my own healing. I'm obsessed with true crime, but also our obsession with true crime. This also doesn't have to be murder. I like financial crimes and everything else of the sort. I like things nostalgic and the feelings that we were sold, but I also want to understand why. So, love Barbie. I love all kind of toys from when I was a kid, but I also just learned from one of my favorite podcasts that Barbie, boy, had some very nefarious roots, some very weird, strange start. Same with Cabbage Patch Kids and some other things. So I will direct you over to that podcast at some point. You can listen to my favorite podcast. It's called Cosmic Peach. She does some really cool deep dives, but also inspired me to start my podcast and do things from my perspective. So here I am. So I'm just trying to reinvent myself, this former girly girl who had to turn boss bitch. And I am so fucking resentful to the boss bitch era. If I can tell anybody anything, that is my take from that. I understand some of you are living it and you're thriving, and I love that for your journey. But for me, it felt like I was sold this fucking lie. And the other part of it that really pisses me off is I look back and I was just so fucking burnt out. And we're so taught to bury all of your feelings and your actual nervous system responses that we're all living on medication. We're all living on an addiction of some sort. And a lot of my very close friends in the little town that I grew up in did turn to really heavy drug addictions. I myself didn't, luckily, but I was heavily addicted to food and I was heavily addicted to shopping and other sort of impulsive sort of things, I guess. I've been very reactive and I'm trying to learn not to be. But I guess recognizing that's really the first step, right? I realized that there's a lot of things my parents did out of what they considered love. It was really meant to be a loving thing, but ended up sacrificing a lot of giving me things, working hard to give me things rather than all the emotional support that I probably needed. I am definitely somebody who is very deep and a little complicated, and for that, I'm just trying to figure it all out now. I'm tired of hustle culture. I'm tired of that. You've got to work your ass off. I don't believe that any longer. I believe you have to do what serves your soul and you'll never work a day in your life. And I also, I want so badly to tell so many people in my life to go fuck themselves because I listened to them over the years and I believe their truths. And I stopped one day and I thought about it. I did have gastric bypass surgery because I ended up losing a little over 200 pounds. And in that journey, I remember feeling to the point where I felt that I was so broken going into the surgery that it was just not going to work. And I had so many other people write to me and they were like, "Oh, let me know how it went because, I don't think it's going to work because, I have a story of somebody who gained it all back and blah blah blah." And I just kind of went in and I'm like, "This is my last ditch effort. I've tried everything up to this state." And the biggest takeaway that I have post surgery was, yeah, the surgery will help you get the weight off, but my mindset work was probably the bigger of the issues, and the healing and the recovery was understanding that sometimes I'm a little more hungry than other days, and restricting those calories on that day is just not going to serve me. And then other days I'm not that hungry, so I don't have to continue to shove food in um, to meet any sort of goal or expectation. I just need to listen to my body. And I started doing that, and I started doing it from the perspective of like, wow, I'm here now where I don't need certain things. I have to follow making sure I put in what's healthy. And then anything outside of that, it's okay. Do it. It serves you well. You move forward. And so far, I've been really successful just listening to my nervous system. But then that translated over to me having to actually do it from a mental health perspective from work. And I'm in kind of a scary spot right now. I'm being vulnerable, but I am truly believing that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing right now. So, a little bit more about me in the podcast. I really want to know why. So, like the story I've told you, I listen to everybody. I remember also one of my close friends growing up, her mom saying, "You girls are going to college. You're going to college. No man is going to tell you how to live and what you're going to buy. And I remember thinking like, wow, like this is crazy. Like, why is she so worried about this? But obviously now looking back, I'm like, boy, she felt something. She lived something. She experienced something that scared her to such a core that she wanted us to be able to think freely. And through that, many people of that generation believe college is the only way, that you need this bachelor's degree. Where I'm not at the point where I have a master's degree, and I absolutely can tell you I had people working for me that had no education that were just as good as people that had law degrees working for me. Um, they were all amazing for their own ways. They all had skills. And what I found is in leadership was, rather than trying to pit everybody against each other, I really wanted everybody to see what they can contribute with what they had. And I just think that if I can do this through independent thinking and a podcast and just sharing some of my experiences, maybe I can help some other people realize that you live in the fucking matrix, and getting the fuck out of it is probably the hardest fucking thing I've ever done in my whole existence. But I also want to do it via understanding what were we sold, what were we taught, and why. And just like that, my friend's mom and my other friend's godmother, I mean, they were giving us soul experience that, I took to heart, and I really thought, well, they know better than me. They have the experience. Um, I think also in life, some of that is you have to make those decisions. You have to reap what you sow, and then it's what you do with that afterwards. So that's where I'm at right now too, is trying to figure out what's the next step in all of this. If it's not supposed to look that way, how is it supposed to look? And boy, is it scary, I can tell you that. But I'm a Zennial. I call myself a survivor, but I'm really just recovering from that whole boss bitch BS. That's the part I found that momming my kids have been probably one of the best teachers in my life. So, um, I absolutely just love having them. It's not always easy at all. But I try to be really honest about my experiences now. And I hope other people can either relate or find something in this that, can help you reshift just a little tiny bit, to do what's right for you. Um, I'm still just trying to figure out, this whole hustle culture, and why was it sold to us? And well, it's what keeps the machine working. So, I felt like I just got to this point of you're being sold constantly like, no, you're empowered going to this job every day. No, I'm fucking burnout. I'm fucking exhausted. I was going home disassociating all night. I was a terrible wife. I was a terrible mother. And I was just buying shit to try to make everybody happy, including myself. And that's not the fucking answer. So, what the fuck's the answer look like? I don't fucking know. I'm hoping we can all find out together. But in the meantime, I'd like to entertain everybody with showing that I'm no longer the people pleaser, that I am no longer in masking syndrome, and you can get out of those things too. That's the true empowerment here. I want a space where we can laugh, cry, and talk about everything we've been through unapologetically. I will tell you in my next episode, some of the stuff that my guest says is going to be offensive to some. That is his experience through that time frame. And if you can't take that as a learning lesson, then you might not like this podcast. This is about shifting your thinking in all different directions. It's not always going to be what serves you best. But sometimes it's going to be, oh, maybe I should view this a little differently, and maybe I can be a little bit more compassionate today. That's always the hope. But again, I know some of this will come across a little bit offensive, and that's going to be okay. That's going to be the vibe here. We're gonna tell our truths, even though they might ruffle some feathers. But we also need to do it from a respectful manner. So that's the goal. At this point, I basically want to go through that. All of this, everything we've lived through our lives were only seasons, right? And I realized I don't like that I got into like into a job, and it was like, okay, here's my identity. And I really identified heavily with the job I had, the money, my paycheck, things like that. And I don't want to be like that anymore. I hated that I came to that realization that that was my truth and that was how I was living. And it just felt really ugly. So It's time for me to undo that and kind of reclaim me. What I will tell you is I'm always going to be a little sloppy. I'm always going to be in yoga pants probably. And if I am in jeans, it's going to be a rare occasion. They're going to have elastic in across the back of them because my pants gap in the back. And don't give a fuck if I'm in style any longer. Once you get to this point, you just opt out of giving fucks on fashion sometimes. And I am here. I have a brain in my head, so I'd rather you listen to that than what my aesthetic looks like. But with that said, I very much for so long was somebody who would overthink about an outfit or what I was going to do just for my appearance when it was time to go and show up at an event. You know, it was like, oh, well, how many people complimented my outfit? And at the end of the day, it doesn't fucking matter. And, you do that so long and realize, well, that was the most I took from that. Yikes. So let's talk about some of my other things that I love. I absolutely love learning about nervous systems now. So as I said earlier, I went through a whole period where I ended up, I ended up just in this whole boss bitch like era. And I mean, even like the discussions around breastfeeding my son had become like, well, I'm a working mom and I'm in these meetings and blah, 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 blah. And, I had to make decisions based around my job for my kids. And it started me thinking on, boy, we send our kids to school really fucking early on, right? And we really start trying to sleep train our children. And I was once told before I had kids, and I always thought this was kind of neat, but just a friend of mine, a coworker, said to me one time, she said, think about babies' timing being off. If you think about it, if the mom's a working mom and she's up moving all day, it's basically rocking the baby all day long. And then that's why they're up at night kicking the mom while she's sleeping at night because the mom's sedentary and sleeping. Well, then when they're born, you have to take those whole first times while mom's completely fucking exhausted and try to, live at night while the baby's awake because that's what they were used to in utero. But then it turns into this whole you're just training them then so you can go to work. And I realized most of the money that we were making, we were spending on conveniences around me working. And that didn't make any sense to me any longer. So that's where I'm at with that. But I wanted to learn about the nervous systems because I realized there were so often I was having panic attacks in the middle of the night. So I was waking up at 2:30 in the morning, just shaking, and I didn't understand why. I didn't know what was going on, and I realized I was having panic attacks because my body was in fight or flight. It hated my job so fucking terribly that's what happened. I was waking up in the morning and just physically sick. I wasn't listening to my nervous system saying, "Hey, get the fuck out of there." Now that I have, I can listen to my nervous system. I don't always like what it has to say. I don't always like the feelings that come with it, but you got to feel them and you got to work through them. Otherwise, I'm not going to level up. So with that, I basically wanted to come forward and say, okay, what taught me to live like that? What taught me that that was normal? Because most people are like, oh yeah, I know what you mean. Go get on Ativan. And drugs weren't the answer any longer. Like I didn't want to have to rely on medication any longer. So for me, I enjoy doing these deep dives. I enjoy looking for fuckery in pretty much everything we watch or listen to. What I had learned in, for so many years, they're trying to sell you safety. Oh, if you hustle and you get all this money, you're going to be really safe in your house. And well, then people want more, 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 and they don't feel like they can show up and they're not feeling worthy. And that's the stuff I want to dig the fuck into. Why? Why are we sold this lack of worth? And does it start with an education system? It might if you look at the history of the education system, which we absolutely will. But also our shows, our movies. One of my favorite characters online is from the show Righteous Gemstone. Judy Gemstone makes a comment at one point to her boyfriend BJ, and she said, BJ, the only way I know about love is what I learned from teen movies. And I really sadly can relate to that. But you allow the overreactions and things like that. Again, I was thinking, oh, these movie people know way more than I do. So I was failing to make sure I was listening to my heart or my nervous system, etc. So let's keep going here. My dog just walked in. All right. So Justin and I, so my friend Justin and I that I've already been recording, we have some really big topics that we wanted to cover. Obviously, just hustle culture and all that's going to come up a time and time again. But we start really heavily with 9/11, and I'm going to get into a little bit before I end this episode, just to kind of facilitate the meeting. But mainly, what I wanted to get into was what was happening around this time. So, if we look at 2000s, I graduated from high school in 2000, went to cosmetology school. I dropped out of college once, so that was the first part. Um, but if we go back to the timing, it was the early 2000s, and at the time, it was all about chaotic entertainment was starting to hit the stream, right? Or hit the waves, I guess, the airwaves. But we were in this. It was a full blown social engineering experiment at this time, if you really look at it. And if you look down at the breakdown of all of this, Big Brother, Survivor, those things all came out right before 9/11. So 9/11 was 9/11 2001. Justin and I go into where we were at the time. We sidetrack a lot, guys, but there's a lot of fun stories that come out of it, and a lot of things that we can actually go back and talk about that were real at the time that are just kind of not, just the radio and in the clinic and everything like that. It's funny, but if we look at what was going on at the time, 9/11 ended up in 2001. But prior to that, we already had Big Brother and we already had Survivor. And there was a couple other shows, I believe, too. I think the Osbournes might have already been out. I'm not 100% about that. But I do remember it really made there was a whole thing where people were starting to get more comfortable with being like under surveillance, so under constant camera, under constant watch and things like that. So Big Brother and Survivor, they kind of already started that, like, training the viewers to accept being watched. Then we have this major, major terrorist attack, and I'm doing in quotes in my because I mean, again, we'll talk in the next episode, but we have this major terrorist attack, and then this all starts, the motion of us living in fear. Everybody was turning to the news to see what the fuck was going on. You wanted the answers, but then we wanted to, see more. But it really started amping up national security at the time. So it kind of puts in the question, did this really start organically, or did it was it put in place almost to start allowing that feel of letting go in front of cameras? Because most people in front of cameras aren't going to be themselves. And now we know that, some people completely just forget they're there because it's so normal now. But back then it wasn't. People weren't really used to it. Now you'd see yourself in like a store surveillance camera, things like that. But the thought of being listened to in your home and stuff like that was not normal. But the reality TV actually started kind of helping mirror things. And obviously the airport security started getting locked down, and we really normalized digital tracking and being watched at the time. And then again, not long after that, we had the recession era. And that was about when I started my career to mid 2000s and on, where it was like, well, we're in a recession. If you want money, you have to hustle, hustle, hustle. And we all kind of forgot, like, if you're just living your life and you're doing the things you enjoy, what more do you really need? But TV will tell you, I need this, I need that. If you don't, you feel like a piece of shit, or you're not giving your kids the best life that you could be giving, that kind of thing. Now, if you look at it from that, we really, really, really started through aesthetics and competition as well. So competition got even higher. So public school systems already put you in that competitive state to begin with. Your pass fail, or you comply or you don't. Schooling is really just about compliance, and we basically teach our new mothers, if you're going to go out to work and you're going to send your kid to school, you better teach them from birth to fucking sleep train and piss on the potty, or else they're not going to be compliant. And then you're a failure as a mother. And that is how it feels a lot of the times as a mom. But if you also look back at what was going on at the time, there was also digital migration that was going on. So, like my face, or I'm sorry, MySpace, my face, oh my gosh, MySpace, Facebook kind of showed up a little bit. YouTube was starting to emerge. So, the reality TV was really starting to help. And it was starting with like oversharing the social media and then curating your identity. And we've watched this. I think a lot of us have really experienced a lot of this over the years. And let's see here. Oh, emotions. So while we started watching people be more real on the television, we also started watching emotional, just fuckery basically. The people that acted the most mentally ill got the most screen time. So for a lot of us, it was, you were watching this and it's like, okay, how do you get noticed in this world? Especially when you're being surveilled all the time, and it's like, well, just go out and act mentally ill. You'll get seen. You'll get the airtime. Um, let's see. Then, from my perspective, it's really cool. I love being where I'm at right now, just because I feel like I'm this bridge. I feel like I'm a bridge for the littler generation, or the younger generations, littler, oh my gosh, younger generations, but also the older. I've been around the older my whole life, obviously, and you learn to like grow up and how to tailor your life for them. But then having this whole other younger generation is just completely different. Um, and I love it. I love learning about them. I love learning the drive and how do you get everybody to work collaboratively. And so hopefully we can do a little of that through what I'm going to do in this podcast. But again, this isn't my end all be all. This is just me starting my creative journey. So I hope some of you enjoy this and come along with me. But next, let's see. Then we got into, so you look at Jackass, and Jackass actually goes down to the 90s of a really critical time. So if you go to the mid 90s, there were actually these, I believe they were VHS tapes that you would have to get, but the skater culture. And I remember this one pretty heavily. Hopefully, I can find somebody that lived it at some point. We can have them on here and talk about it. But I believe Jonah Hill did a movie, um, mid 90s, I think maybe it was called, but they talk about the skater culture and those videos, the skate videos. And I remember going to some parties in like the late 90s, early 2000s and watching people get these VHS tapes out and put them in. And, they were dumping stuff on each other. It was very Jackass. So it was very Jackass before Jackass. But then Jackass shows up during this whole time period that I'm talking about. And it starts this whole like, you can act this way, if you're a rebel kind of thing. So it was just a whole other culture and using it in a whole different way, which was fun. That was actually my favorite show between that and the Osbournes. I was a hairstylist at the time and I would like rush home to get to watch those shows. I'm obsessed with them. Another little fun thing just to throw out there. So before surveillance was like crazy normalized, AIM instant messengers, those messages, those were like the very first of like these online emotional performance arts for my group. So anybody that remembers that, so funny. I remember people being able to like make these elaborate kind of like roses and stuff with just different fonts and letters. It was so amazing to me. And the other thing is, we live in a world of covering things up. We live in concealment constantly. If you do something wrong, instead of trying to take accountability, most people just rush to try to conceal it, just fucking cover it up. And for me, I don't want to do that any longer. I really, really, really want to call it to the carpet, own it, and just share it because so many other people I'm finding are so similar to me and they see the world in this way. And it's just really difficult at times to kind of shed that. So just another thing. Body image. That was such a big one for me. And I'm going to try to curate an entire episode, and this might even go towards a partial season in body image throughout the years of what was normal for women. But damn, I know I lived it. I've been told before I kind of grew up through the gauntlet of worst times of getting terrible information. And I believe that to be true because again, like I said, we were taught to completely fucking not listen to our bodies and just do whatever the fuck they tell you to. So yeah, no more for that for me. I talk about it. And I talk about my imperfections because, guys, I am so far from fucking perfect. That's just it. But let's see. My whole thing is, I also, I was huge watching The Biggest Loser. Loved that show. And I used so many of their tactics at the time, only to find out there was Netflix, I believe, just had a documentary, and you see how it was engineered. And it was almost haunting to me. And my husband actually even looked at me at one point and said, now looking at this, he's like, I can see how this wasn't good for you at the time either. You did a lot of this stuff. And I did. I was starving myself, again, listening to everybody else but my own fucking nervous system. So that's something so important is let's start learning our fucking nervous systems. Let's start listening. Okay. With me after my gastric bypass, it left me with this like, how the fuck did I get there? And again, I really realized like I was so programmed. I lived with a grandma who would make comments like, you're so lazy, you stink. I wasn't lazy. I was running my dad's bar, for a lot of that period. I was going to school. I was maintaining really high GPA. And it really just came down to what kind of mood she was in. And she'd make these comments, but I allowed it to be my truth. And it was not just her. There were so many others. I mean, my body was like the hot topic of my family for so many years because how the fuck could I be so broken? Only to learn that I was broken because I wasn't listening to shit in my own body. I was listening to every fucking other person. So I want everybody to stop listening to all the outside noise and start tuning into yourself. This is so important. This is how we get above all this. And I am an autism mama. My youngest son was diagnosed when he was just before 3 years old, but we started the process of like looking into everything probably at 18 months. It was hard. And I have another son. He's 10. He's older, and he's definitely a glass child. He's was handpicked by God for his role in this earthly experience. But we definitely have a lot that we struggle through. I'd actually like to share a lot about that from time to time as well. And my oldest actually is interested in doing a podcast. So, one where I'm going to be a little less foul mouthed and a little more let's educate people on maybe folklore or something. So, stay tuned. It's going to be a minute. I need to get this one on the ground first, or off the ground first, rather. So I'm going to have guests come on and collab with me. I'm really excited about that. I actually have a couple people on deck, but one's going to be one of my best friends. He's a 49-year-old man. You'll hear him on the next episode. I do want to warn you up front. I don't know what I'm doing as far as recording and editing. And him and I probably have ADHD pretty terribly where the episodes just go all over the fucking place. I'm still trying to decide what to do with some of this. So stay tuned. But there's going to be some good stories coming from that front sooner than later. All right. So, a couple other things that I want to share. I had a couple other notes that I skipped over. So, in the early 2000s, if I go back, early 2000s, we were then kind of taught that surveillance was more safety. We were conditioned by this isn't about you being watched. We are doing this because we care for you. And then the transformation of watching these things. So, like watching The Biggest Loser or Extreme Makeover, where they actually literally fucking operated on people, taught us that suffering has to lead to the redemption. You have to suffer, or that massive transformation. You need to be aesthetically pleasing in order to be worthy. And the more you look at it this way, it's kind of fucked up. But also that they script out the archetypes and rather than, I mean, they do look for a purposeful, relatable person for each kind of genre of person. But as I said earlier, the hot mess, the villains, and the underdogs seem to be the ones who really get the roles and get the airtime. So unless you have something like that, they don't really put you out there as much. You have to act more mentally ill to get the more time. And then also the whole aesthetic coercion, beauty, thinness, wealth, those were framed as the only valid incomes of any sort of growth or personal rising. And that's just fucking sad. And again, I bought into that fucking drama for years. I subscribed and I want to unsubscribe. It's time to realize. I've now realized I have a lot of fucking smile lines on this face. Now, I get my face is nothing to model with or anything like that, but my kids love me, my husband love me, and I can look in the mirror and say, "Look, I suffered through some things throughout my life, and I still fucking smiled." So I enjoy these smile lines. I respect them. They're like my tiger stripes, and I'm gonna wear them proudly. And for that, I'm grateful. I'm not shaming anybody for any sort of plastic surgery. Like I said, I had gastric bypass. I just everybody's on their own journey. I'm just sharing mine right now. Then cultural impacts. So just going like this last little bit, reality TV really blurred some lines between the public and private, and they basically trained us to perform for our identity rather than just be. So whoever you are when you go outside and you ground and you're like rubbing your feet into the fucking grass, be that person. I mean, the rest of this is just it's the fakeness. So, I know my older brother's 10 years older than me and consistently, well, when you're in the workplace, you need to act like, no, I need to be myself. And if they don't like me there, fuck them. I'll do this podcast. um, so then additionally, so starting in the 80s, and I think a lot of us that were born in the 80s or even like, start their core memories in the 80s are going to probably realize that the 80s was known as the decade of materialism. I don't think I ever heard that until a couple years ago, finally. And it really slapped me in the face when I heard about it. But even for us through the 2000s, hair, makeup, brands, you have to have these things in order for you to be successful. And guys, I fucking bought this shit. I fucking bought the Kate Spade. I bought the Tory Burch and I bought the fucking Teaks and I bought the MAC makeup and all the other fucking brands. And I was still so fucking miserable. So why? And that's what I wanted to understand. And I'm now looking around my house. I have more fucking clothes than I need, than I'm going to even wear. So I'm slowly trying to get rid of some of that. I'm just trying to get rid of all of the stuff that no longer serves me. And I want to be able to share my stuff, my creativity, it's nothing amazing, but it's mine. And I want to be able to share that with all of you. And then I want to go through how emotional spectacle as entertainment isn't always helpful. I know for me, I really modeled some of that behavior in relationships that I had, and it did not serve me well. And I also didn't listen to my heart in my reactions. I would just listen to, oh, well, this happened on this movie. Then when I didn't get the reaction or the response that I had expected, I was kind of pissed and I felt failed. But again, I wasn't listening to myself, I was listening to somebody else. So let's get better with that because I know if I'm doing it, other people are too. And last but not least, also let's think about how reality TV and all of that time era laid the groundwork for influencer culture, hustle aesthetic, and performative healing. So all of this aside, I want to tell you I have some really cool deep dives. I want to talk about how you can be beautiful without buying shit. I want to talk about how your worth is not tied up into how you act online or anything else. Just be you. And let's go into why that's so important eventually. That's really what this podcast is going to be about. So, each week, what I would like to do is look into different guests, hopefully. Sometimes you'll probably just get me, but I want to do deep dives into the media we've consumed. I want to look into what was going on in the eras at the time. I want to talk about the shows and the movies, especially the music and the events that happened throughout history that caused us to be where we are right now. Why am I a Zennial who's like, where the fuck did everything go? Why is everything going so fast? And I prepared, and my preparation failed me. I want to understand all this because that's how I felt. I felt lost for a really long time, and I want to get it back together. So, we're going to talk about body image, diet culture, um, mind control, different social engineering, different things that happened. And I am so fucking excited, guys. I know I'm rambling in this episode. This is going to be a little bit about me, though. And I want you to just come and understand I need really positive feedback as to, hey, that you can do better next time by doing X, Y, and Z. I know it's hard for me to hold a thought. So doing that, please be kind when you're letting me know, because I really want to keep going with this. I have so much knowledge, so many cool things, so many angles to look at things. Um, and one of the things I'd like to ask you before we step aside here and before I bid you farewell for the day, how do we as humans build character without without at least a little bit of discomfort? Think about it. Just curious. There's no right answer, no wrong answer. All right, friends. I am going to let you go for today. This is my very first episode. I ask for kindness. I know I'm a babbling idiot, but my next couple of episodes are going to be a lot of fun, touch on a lot of really weird things. And then I have some deep dives of the movie Wag the Dog. And we're going to have a deep dive of the movie Mommy Dearest. And also, we are watching Snake Eyes. I haven't done that one yet, but lots of notes, lots of things to look into. You'll get those in a couple of episodes, but hope to hear you, or sorry, hope to see you back here at some point. I hope you are going to enjoy the show, and I hope this brings you a little bit of excitement for what's to come. All right, friends, have the best day ever, and we'll talk again soon. Bye. That's it for this dose of the Consume Her Consumer podcast. If something stirred your nervous system, cracked open a myth, or made you laugh at a narrative that you used to perform in, good. That means it's working. This space is survivor led, satire laced, and sacred at its core. All conversations, online and off, are invited to be curious and honest, but radically respectful. This is all for entertainment purposes only. And if respect isn't your vibe, go start your own podcast. Until next time, stay sacred, stay satirical, and consult your intuition before consuming anything, especially narratives. Bye.